Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I always enjoy visiting with Jeff Duncan. We're so lucky to have him every Friday to have access to. And, I'm a huge Saints fan. I think they're going to have a great season still, but it's always going to be interesting to see how they work through these tough games and these tough injuries. And Jeff brings such important insight to us as fans and how we should actually watch the game and things we should look out for. So now let's shift gears. JT Mitchell's actually not with us today. JT has something else he's involved with right now, but I'm extremely excited to have my friend Caleb with us this morning, Caleb Sellers. And he's a key member of the News team and someone I really enjoy visiting with. So JT can go do whatever he wants to do. I enjoy spending time with you, my friend.
Well, I appreciate that, Ricky, and I'm glad to be here.
Look, I always tell people if they're not signed up to the SuperTalk Mississippi app, they should go do it. If they don't want to download the app, they can go to supertalk.fm and then put that link on your homepage on your phone, and you'll be glad you did, because you'll have access to all the important news that is happening across the state of Mississippi. This team is delivering news to nearly 50 radio stations across the state of Mississippi, and each of those stations serve as kind of news tips for them. So they're able to kind of know the important news that's happening across the state at any given time. And I'll give you an example. Right off the bat, the top news of the day was a story about Entergy, Mississippi, mobilizing to Florida ahead of Hurricane Helene. Caleb, I'm always blown away by how all the power companies work together. Mississippi Power, Mississippi Power and Light, all the ones that are here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast. They all work to help each other get the power back on. But it looks like this is going to be literally millions of people without power. This is going to be a big deal.
They're going to need all hands on deck. And Ricky, you were also mentioning everywhere to get our news as well. And look, if you don't like looking at the news every single day or refreshing your browser, sign up for our newsletter too. It's free. You get an email, you get a recap of the biggest stories from the week, and like you talking about hurricane prep and Mississippi, or Energy Mississippi going down to help people with Helene. I mean, you'll get those stories right there in your inbox. And it's not just like your hard-hitting politics. We cover sports. We cover lifestyle stories, literally anything that involves the state of Mississippi. You can find it, supertalk.fm, and our newsletter, social media, we're everywhere.
Yeah, the newsletter is one of the – when you go to supertalk.fm, there's going to be a query there to get you, and click on the link and go sign up for the newsletter. But, again, a wide variety of stories. I just kind of give you, hum a few bars, as Stan Tyner, the executive editor for the Sun Herald, used to say. Up at the top, you got top stories in politics, sports, lifestyle. But the Entergy story, of course. Ingalls awarded a $9.6 billion contract to build ships for U.S. Navy. Ridgeland police officer returns home from hospital after being struck by a drunk driver. Horn Lake man found guilty of attempted first-degree murder and a drug deal gone wrong. Macomb high school football game to have no fans after massive fight. The stories just go on and on. There's some great stories. What were you going to say about the Macomb story?
So I'll give you a little inside information on that one. And it's a very troubling, sad, and wild story. So there was a massive brawl that broke out at Macomb High School on Monday, and the video's online. It's all over social media. You can see it. It's very troubling. I know, Ricky, as a parent, you would hate to see this video, but
I saw it.
Yeah.
It's troubling.
How do you control that? And look, there have been sources close to the situation have told me that the violence was gang related, that there are a couple of gangs in the city of Macomb that are really jockeying for position. Now, law enforcement has not given an official statement, saying that it was gang related. They haven't confirmed that, but it was reported to me that it's gang related. And South Pike is hosting the football game on Friday. South Pike is a better run school than Macomb High School right now. And the South Pike officials were like, we're not going to open Pandora's box. We're not going to allow, usually there's about 5,000 to 7,000 people that attend this game. It's a pretty big rivalry in, Southwest Mississippi. And the officials were like, we're just going to have no fans, no spectators. The only people that are allowed to play this game are players, coaches, essential personnel, medical personnel. And they're going to move the game back to 2:00 on Friday to avoid any mishaps, any nonsense, which I think the bigger story here is what is going on in our schools, Ricky? What is going on in the culture, in our communities? I mean, how are these young people, schools are supposed to be a safe haven where parents feel safe sending their children and where children feel safe. And who are influencing these children to where they're committing these egregious and heinous acts of violence against one another?
When you say brawl, like a brawl when I was going to high school, nobody really kind of wants to hurt each other. I mean, you might, somebody's holding you back, and while they're holding you back, you're really ready to go swing. But while you're not being held back, you're not really it's just a brawl really wasn't a brawl, but this was a brawl. This was way worse than that. I mean, the way they picked that desk up and hit the guy, and they were, even when they were swinging to hurt people. Right. I mean, it was incredible.
This wasn't Daniel LaRusso and Johnny Lawrence going at it after homecoming, in the back parking lot of the school. This was, people had nefarious intentions here, and there was evil present in that classroom, Ricky. I went to a public high school. I went to Ridgeland High School here in the Metro Jackson area, and there were fights here and there, but nothing to that degree. Never anything like that.
It's scary, but again, if you're anywhere in the state and you are frustrated with the news that you're getting from your local providers, go to supertalk.fm. And you're going to get the important news stories. You're not going to get a bunch of stuff from Indiana and all these other communities that aren't in Mississippi. You're going to get Mississippi news. So you did another story actually about 37 firearms intercepted at Mississippi airports. That's unbelievable, isn't it?
So a lot of this is people that are, I guess, ignorant of the airport firearm laws. And, in each state, laws are different. And so TSA is issuing a reminder saying, hey, the holidays are approaching. We've got, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. It'll be here sooner than later. Y'all brush up on your firearm awareness, brush up on your knowledge of the laws, know what you can and can't do at the airport. Don't try to check a bag with a loaded gun in it through TSA. It's going to get intercepted. We're going to confiscate it. You're likely going to go to jail or face some sort of punishment. Just don't do that. And, they on our website, too, if you click on that link and go to that story, there's a long list of tips for people to adhere to before they go to the airport. It's like, hey, look, you can bring a firearm, make sure it's not loaded, make sure it's in a secured case, make sure it's not in a carry-on bag. And, just things that are would appear to be basic common sense, Ricky, that I guess the public does need to be brushed up on. And TSA is like, look, 37 have been confiscated in Mississippi. That's a lot. 23 of those 37 at the Jackson Medgar Evers International Airport here in Jackson. But and then we've had, I think, 10 of them down in your neck of the woods, the Gulfport Biloxi Airport. And they're just like, let's just not have this happen again. Y'all just know what you're supposed to do when you go to the airport.
Hey, one of those was a good friend of mine, and this is what happens. He was on vacation with his wife. He was, he had it in his carry-on bag, but they were in their car. They were on vacation in their car. Yeah. So he gets back just in time to rush to the airport. This is a guy that travels almost weekly, and he's involved in military contracts. He has the highest degree of security clearance. Okay. Oh. Highest degree. Puts his bag on the deal. Bing, 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 bing. Of course, they see the gun. And what they do, they do two things. They not only get you for the federal whatever, but they also write a city a ticket of some sort. And it took them a little bit of work to work through it. But once, I guess once the judge and everybody understood this guy was really just an accident, and he has the highest degree of clearance, literally the highest level of clearance for the national government, federal government, he was able to work through it. But that happens a lot, man. Usually that's the case. Somebody just accidentally, bringing the gun.
But I would assume a lot of these people are going on hunting trips, whether they're going up to Montana or Kansas, to go shoot an elk or to go shoot pheasants, whatever. And they're not intending to do anything wrong. But TSA is like, look, even though your intentions may be pure, let's just not do this.
Well, listen, one of my family and one of our homes away from home is Turks and Caicos.
Ooh.
We just love going there. Grand Bay is one of the best, one of the best dive spots in the world, and we love to dive. But the Grace Bay, I said Grand Bay. I have Alabama on my head, but Grace Bay. But man, I mean, look, they're taking no prisoners there. If you even have, a single bullet in your carry-on bag, and they'll put you in jail, man. So, I think the message to travelers is you gotta sort of know. You cannot plead stupidity. You cannot make mistakes. You cross that line and you're going to be treated like you're a criminal, and that's just the reality of it. Hey, when we come back on the other side with Caleb Sellers, we'll continue our conversation about news across the state of Mississippi. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to the Ricky Matthews Show from the Citizens Bank Studio. I have Caleb Sellers with me today. He's a member of the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. And we're just sort of, reminding you why it's important for you to go hyperlink supertalk.fm on your phone homepage, or just sign up for the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and you'll get access to all the news that we're talking about. But again, Caleb, what's interesting is, stories from all over the state. So you guys are looking all over the state on any given day and saying, what are the interesting stories that people from across the state might be interested in? Like one that you wrote actually was about the Starkville High School football coach being suspended for one game. And there was another one about the Clark County sheriff being investigated for domestic violence. I think you wrote that one as well. But we're trying to capture these key stories from around the state, and you're sorting through that, trying to make sure that you're pulling the stories from those communities that other communities might be interested in.
Right. And you mentioned earlier, you're not going to see stories from an Indiana or a Michigan or California on our site. But I will, if you live in Vicksburg, I want the story that's based in Biloxi to still be interesting to you. If you live in Greenville and the Delta, I want the Jackson story to still be interesting to you. And during the legislative session, I want all the stories to be interesting to you, and anything that anybody in any corner of the state can read and either relate to or find a common interest in.
Yeah, I'll give you another example for the kind of news stories that you want to read about. I mean, you don't want to miss this, and other news organizations might miss this just because they don't have the resources to focus in the way that the SuperTalk Mississippi news team can. But I think it's a story you wrote as well about officials prioritizing public safety this year at the 165th Mississippi State Fair. But that's an important story, isn't it, Caleb?
Absolutely. And, in years past, we've had violent encounters, shootings, big fights at the state fair. And Agriculture Commissioner Andy Gibson, who I know has been on your show plenty of times, he's said, enough is enough. The buck stops somewhere. And so, this has been years in the making, and they've done this, phased in more security to the state fair, but they've instituted metal detectors where you have to go through a metal detector. They put a curfew if you're, under the age of 18 and it's after midnight. You can't be there alone. You have to be accompanied by an adult. And they have a surge of police. I mean, just about any police agency, law enforcement department you could think of that exists in the Metro Jackson area or at the state level will be at the state fair. Ricky, a funny story is I was at the state fair with a buddy of mine last year. It was a weeknight, granted. It wasn't Friday night or Saturday, but I think at one point I counted more law enforcement officers than I did just actual, public attendees at the fair. And which is a good thing. You feel more safe. You feel more secure. Last year, we didn't have really any major incidents, any major fights, any major violence that broke out at the state fair. And, it's due to that leadership, that initiative saying, hey, we'll pay whatever is necessary. We'll do whatever is necessary. The state fair is a big moneymaker for the city of Jackson. It's really good for the state of Mississippi. It's one of the best state fairs in the country. We need to make it safe. And so it's good that the public, I know a lot of people that refused to go to the state fair. I mean, at one point, I have an 8-year-old brother, Ricky, and my dad was like, look, there's different times of, the day that I'm willing or comfortable to take him. Now, he has no issue taking him at any point because he knows that the leadership is dedicated to making it a safe event.
Yeah, it is important that they do that, and it's exciting that they're doing it. And that's a story that you'll see if you go to supertalk.fm. The other thing is, sports. We own sports in Mississippi.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're doing live broadcasts of high school sports. We lead when it comes to podcasts for major universities in the state. And I'll just give you an example with Thunder and Lightning, the SuperTalk podcast that Brian Haydad has. Is what's the latest on number of downloads for that? Do you know?
I have no idea. I can't count that high, Ricky.
It's dramatic, and it's like one of the leading sports podcasts in the United States. That's how big it is. And so, with state struggling, it's still a place where people go to try to understand what's going on. And then, of course, you flip over to Ole Miss is having a good season, and we'll see as they get into some of these tough games as they go forward how they're going to do. But Michael Borky's, you'll have access to his writing and his podcast if you go to that. And the same thing is true with Southern Miss and the other collegiate sports as well. But we really try to cover the sports arena like a blanket, don't we?
Absolutely. And Ricky, you mentioned the podcast too, but even on the day-to-day on Saturdays, you'll have myself. I cover Ole Miss athletics for our beat. So for example, I'll be in Oxford this Saturday when the Rebels take on Kentucky. I'll be in the press box covering the game. I'll be in the press room afterward asking Lane Kiffin, Jackson Dart, whoever questions. And, we've got Ben Milam that's done such a fantastic job covering Southern Miss for us. Hunter Dawkins helps out as well. Brian Haydad has done wonderful job with Mississippi State coverage, and JT Mitchell will even come in and write some and cover some of the teams as well. So it's a really all hands on deck effort. One thing that a lot of the other outlets lose focus on is how important sports are in Mississippi. And even on the high school level, Ricky, we do the Mississippi Farm Bureau High School Scoreboard Show every Friday night from 10 to 11:30. Lance Tolbert, who produces the Gallows Show, he hosts it. I produce it. And you wouldn't believe the amount of calls we get from each corner of the state. We'll get a caller from Iuka, Mississippi, and we'll get Hunter calling us from Gulfport, and we'll get people calling in Brookhaven or in South Panola. I mean, it's amazing the reach you have when you actually take a vested interest in something that people really care about.
Yeah, it is. It's really cool. And what makes it more powerful is that SuperTalk Mississippi Media is literally a multimedia company with podcasts and Facebook and social media interactions. The radio is always going to be king, but all of this going together. Lance does a great job working with Paul. I think he's terrific, and you do such a great job, and Ben does a great job, and all the guys at Sports Talk do a great job. We're out of time. Have a great day, my friend.
Thank you, Ricky. I appreciate it.
You bet. Everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you on Monday.